Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a wonderful day. So in today's video, we will be talking about, as you can tell by the title, a very long range pattern that could be forming. Very uncertain. By the way, this isn't really anything that I'm confident on, but it's definitely something that a few models have been consistent with for the past few days, and I do want to show you it as I show you not necessarily everything that's guaranteed to happen, right? It's just kind of the process of forming these forecasts, and this is something they wouldn't show you on the TV or the television, as this would have too little confidence for them to show. But it's something that could happen, and I just want to let you know ahead of time. I think it's very cool to look very far in the long range. It's kind of exciting. So yeah, if you guys end up liking this video, liking this channel, consider subscribing, consider liking the video. It helps out a ton, especially if you are a new viewer. Subscribing is awesome, and if you're an old viewer, liking the video is equally as awesome. And if you have any comments or concerns, I pretty much get to most comments, so that would be amazing if you could leave some comments down below. I do want to say that this is still my video that I'm recording before my trip. I said it yesterday that I'm going on like a little trip for the weekend into early next week. While I will be gone, I will still be uploading videos that will be pre-recorded today, and they were somewhere yesterday, and it will be scheduled uploading them. So tomorrow there will be a video. It will be also about a pattern that probably about the heat that I'll be talking about across the western United States. On Friday or on Saturday, I will probably be releasing my winter outlook, which I already pre-recorded, so I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And then on Saturday or Sunday, I'll release another video about the upcoming winter or fall, and then potentially yet another one on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I will be back and informing everyone about the weather. I do want to say that even though I will be uploading, they probably won't be every day during that time frame. It's just a few days. It's spanning from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday will be gone. But on those days, there will be a few videos going out. Okay, without further ado, I know you might have not cared about that, but there are viewers on here that kind of, I upload daily, so this will be a kind of a jump from consistency. Let's take a glance at what I'm talking about with this title of this video. So let's first take a glance at the GFS and see if you could notice the pattern just based off looking at the precipitation, so not just the temperatures. Notice, right now, we do have that northwest flow pattern with several cold fronts. That's kind of a hint into what pattern we could be looking at in a very long range. Notice we do have these waves of storms developing, and the pattern still hasn't taken shape yet at this time frame. At around a 240-hour time frame, which really kind of indicates or marks the start of the long range and end of the medium range, we start noticing signs of a pattern that are really cool in my opinion. Look at the red lines, right? So this is how they're oriented right now, pretty much flowing west to east. But as we start pushing forward, they start orienting themselves northwest to the south and east. And look, we have a low pressure right there, or actually a high pressure brought by a cold front from a low pressure. And notice it's very calm. We have a high pressure moving in. We see a classic trough across the eastern United States. And if you have guessed it at this point, if this is cold air, then you're right. And you could tell just by looking at this, that structure of these patterns. And look, another cold front passes through and another reinforcing shot of cool air. So let me just open up the 2-meter temperature anomalies and show you. Look at that. At that time frame, look how cool the GFS is showing the temperatures could be. So let's take a glance back at the short range and run it through. Notice for now a bit of cool across the east and the south, but during the medium range, it will get warm for the end of kind of July across most of the U.S. really, not just the upper plains, but favoring the upper plains unfortunately. But as I mentioned, around a 240-hour time frame, around the end of July into early August, look what we have. We have this strong anomaly of cool air pushing into the eastern United States and southern Canada. The west doesn't really get in on this, but notice that the plains, Montana, could get quite a bit of relief from this, and it looks as if this could go very far to the south. Now, I do want to say this changes almost with each model run. So, details like how far will it go? What will the anomalies actually be? That's pretty much impossible to tell at this time frame, and it's very far out. But notice that there is quite a bit of cool air, and as I mentioned, there's going to be reinforcing shots. Look, as soon as this one starts to dwindle, we see another shot of cool air coming down from the Canadian soils, Canadian prairies. Yeah, so definitely a interesting pattern flip. Obviously, the temperatures during this cool down. Let's go back before it will be very warm. Look at those hundreds, but once it hits, look at those temperatures. That's the daytime high, 70s, 60s, 50s. That's going to be a huge relief for the folks across the plains, across the Great Lakes and Northeast. I mean, some of the days aren't really getting out of the 60s for many, and then during the nights, 50s, maybe even some upper 40s across the Northwoods. Yeah, obviously there still will be heat to follow. This isn't the start of fall, but it's definitely a cool fall blast that could occur during this time frame. Now, I do want to emphasize, let's go back to the model run from the GFS at 6Z. So this was the model run prior to the one I just showed you. And I do want to go back to our 240 and show you that, again, very similar. It advertises heat, and it does start showing a cool off, but it's markedly different. It's way weaker. It's not as strong. Notice there is a bit of cool air. It's not really organized. It kind of gets suppressed by the cool air, by the warm air. But there are signs. Look at that right there, pulling up in Canada. Now, as you saw, the most updated one is more aggressive with it. If you're to take a look at the model run 12 hours ago, so again, it's still relatively recent, but there's already a lot of changes, even with the one from 12 hours ago. Look, so there's our heat, right? Up maybe a bit of cool air prior even to the big cool down, according to this model run. And look, around hour of 240, it does show a nice fall blast pivoting into especially the northeastern United States. And look, that's rather impressive. While it isn't as impressive as the one recently shown, that's still a pretty good cool down right there. Definitely favoring the eastern United States. And what was interesting with this model run, sorry about that, my mouse kind of geeked out there. Look at it. It shows cool temperatures across the western United States, the coast, the Pacific area. That would be extremely pleasant for those folks that have been dealing with those hot temperatures. So again, each one does show slightly different details, but they all are showing a significant degree of a cool off in the long range pattern. And it's not, the last 300 or the last 100 hours. It starts at around the 240 time frame, which is again kind of where the medium range meets the long range. So this isn't abnormally long out, but it can go pretty far out the stretch of this cool down. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what actually happens from this and what evolves. Now, the one from yesterday at the afternoon model from yesterday, it did show some cool air pooling to the north, notice, and look at the anomalies. Some of them were also pretty significant, but again, it was a slightly different orientation. But notice that it has been consistent for at least a day now, and even days prior to the one yesterday, it was showing signs of it. It just has been less consistent in the days prior, but now it's becoming more and more consistent, which is why I decided to make a video on this. Now, you may be wondering, okay, show us the Canadian or the European. The problem is they only go out to 240, and as you saw, that the GFS shows that cooldown after 240 hours. But up until then, they agree that it will be mainly hot, mainly dominated by the warm temperatures. Now, no real cool air, maybe pockets of it, right? And the Canadian isn't really the best model to look at for temperatures. That's why I prefer the European. However, it really shows the same thing the GFS shows in terms of the medium range. It shows the heat, but it too only goes out to 240 hours, which again is not enough to show that cool off, which the GFS shows in the very long, or after the 240 hours. So unfortunately, we can't see what the European would be showing once it came to the long range, as it only is kind of considered a short to medium range model, but that's why a lot of people consider it to be a bit more accurate during that time frame. But unfortunately, we do suffer the benefit of, or suffer the con of not seeing what's out in long range. But notice, up until then, it does show that heat dominating, and that's what the GFS showed as well. Maybe some pockets of cool air across random regions, and I say that because it's pretty much going to be gone and away within one day, those anomalies. But notice quite a bit of that heat, and it could be pretty darn widespread. Thankfully, not 40 degrees above average, but there could be some areas in the 30s, 30 degrees above average, but most in the double digits. So that's still quite an anomaly. And if you're to take a look at the 2-meter temperature, for example, at hour 234, which we were looking at, you could see no real signs of a cool off. However, if you did see that towards a very long range right there, we are towards the long range of the European model, we do start seeing the cool air up in Canada. Now, whether or not that will come down in the next few European models as it starts going further and further out, we will have to see. And honestly, I think, this doesn't really have a continental view, not available on the European, but I would imagine that there is quite a bit more cool air stored up in there. probably doing a similar feature as to what the GFS is showing. Now, so that, that's the downside. I could show you the GFS ensembles, which is many, 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 many models combined into one map. And, if there is a sign of an anomaly, that means that it's probably pretty strong as it's many models combined. And notice that they do start showing quite a bit of air. A lot of them are reluctant to show a cooldown during the night, but notice that during the days it is rather cooler, but the nights seem to be rather warm according to the models, and they're not as eager to show the cooldown as, say, the GFS by itself, but it obviously does have support, as there are some slight signs of it. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. This is a very kind of more of like a speculation video, but it's definitely possible. And the GFS advertises it at a rather large scale and a large level, and again, it has been consistent with it. If I were to take a look at the midnight model run from Tuesday, it was one of these, I think, days that it started showing it's the signs of this cool off. And I remember I was a bit kind of interested by it because it was rather right there. Look at that. I mean, it was centered more across southeastern Canada than the northeast, but there were signs of it. And now it has only kind of solidified that and become more consistent model run to model run. And again, this would bring some pretty chilly temperatures, but that would be a nice relief for a lot of the people. I do want to say that the Climate Prediction Center around 3 to 4 week outlook does show a bit of cool air across a large portion of the southeastern U.S. and eastern United States, but it does not, this is 3 to 4 week outlook, and the GFS it does start showing that pattern change after the 31st of July, so that would make sense. But the 8 to 14 day outlook, which does go into early August, really favors a lot of warm air. And again, I think that will be true for the end of July, but I think starting August, there cool be a more refined cool down period, which again, the Climate Prediction Center isn't really showing because they don't go as far out to say this could happen because they're not confident enough on it. But I want to show you it because if it does change, what's the loss of showing you? I mean, it's just a cool kind of thing that if it does come true, we saw it coming from a while away, and if it doesn't, then we will figure out why it didn't, and it makes our forecasting better for the next time. And this 6 to 10 day outlook obviously doesn't show that cool off at all, and it shows a lot of heat, which again I agree with. And the precipitation, again, you can see it's rather below average for most of the country. There are a few pockets across the southwest where the monsoon does take action, but it's rather dry, which is again why yesterday I made that video about that concerning pattern, because it's dry, it's hot. Hopefully that cool off could make that concerning pattern less concerning. But yeah, that's basically it. Obviously, if this cooldown does occur, there will be quite a few storm systems, as the GFS showed us on its precipitation, not its precipitation, but its radar, simulated radar this far out. Notice there are quite a bit of cold fronts, quite a bit of storms, and that would bring in several chances for rain that would benefit large portions of the U.S. It's just, again, at this point, very unsure. And I could show you its total accumulated precipitation outlook. This is just its 24-hour precipitation outlook. This is its total one. And notice that the rain amounts aren't heavy, but they are more widespread than they were, say, on yesterday's model run in the evening. And it does favor more of the northern U.S., the southern, kind of more broad, as compared to yesterday, where it was, you could see missing out large areas across the south. And the one even prior to that was even less lenient towards the rain. And the one to say the day prior to that was even less lenient. So again, it is starting to fill up with some more rain, and hopefully we could see this fill in even more. But yeah, that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, more of a speculation type, but hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya.